There are many issues that should guide your decisions about your first post-college job, but these, they ain't them. I think most college students have various levels of anxiety, concern, outright fear about finding that first post-college job. Particularly students that are, juniors and seniors. But I think probably all students have, to some degree, have that nervousness. Like, what's next? Families probably add to that, at least some families probably add to that as well. And it's reasonable. It's understandable. Students would have that kind of concern, those fears even, because it is a moment in time that is important. Now, a lot of students will, and I think probably parents add to this, and I think just generally society does, that there is this kind of chasm or this moment or barrier between kind of that first part of your life journey in school, in academia, going to college, and then the rest of their life in their professional world, developing a career. And this kind of like, I don't want to say a bright line, but this chasm between these two journeys, when in reality, the best way to kind of look at it is that there's not this kind of moment or kind of valley in between, but that's really just kind of the continuation of the same purpose, and that is development, learning, and growing. If you look at this moment of time as a switch from you paying to learn to now being paid to learn, that changes the whole atmosphere of your discussions about that first job. So when I ask the question or suggest the question, what is the purpose of your first job? I think a lot of people are going to think, and maybe you do too, that it's like, what do you mean the purpose? The purpose is, I graduate from college, I want my first job, I want to get on with my career, I want to start making money. That's the purpose of the first job. I get that. But that's a kind of a shallow way, and I think probably not the ideal way to really think about that first job. That it goes back to what I was just saying in terms of it is about continuing your growth. If you look at it that way, it changes kind of how you approach that decision-making process. I think a lot of students will look at kind of that first job and kind of come up with a variety of kind of issues or questions or, kind of areas of inquiry that they want to understand about a particular job. I found that a lot of students will come up with three kind of main questions or kind of categories of questions. What's the location? What's the brand of the company? And then how much am I going to get paid? So those three questions are really geared around the wrong reason or the wrong purpose of that first job. So the first one, the location. I get why students will ask that question or not even have that question, but just have that on the list of this is how I'm looking for that first job. And, a lot of them are, I want to be in a big city. I want to be in New York City. I want to be in LA. I want to be where there's not great restaurants, a lot of nightlife, just the cultural aspects of a big city. I want to be in that vibe. You can have that. It may be your second job. It may be your third job, but that shouldn't be why you're picking it because it really has nothing to do with your development. The second one is the brand of the company. Now, what do I mean by the brand of the company? A lot of students that I've talked to, and maybe this applies to you as well, will have a particular affection or affiliation or admiration for a particular company because of the products they sell, the services they offer, the solutions that they offer to industry. And, you may be a consumer of those products and services or just know and read a lot about their solutions or where they fit within the industry and admire that location or that, that fit within the industry. But what you should be asking is, how are you going to help develop me? That's a different set of questions or different, kind of set or topic of questions over, gosh, I really love this company and their products are so cool. That's not why you should go to work for that particular company. That doesn't say anything about whether or not they're going to develop you. And that's what you need to be asking. So really be thinking about not just how great the company is for their customers or vendors or others, but how great are you going to be for me? Then the third one is, how much are they going to pay you? What's your salary and the benefits, kind of overall compensation, which includes the benefits. Now, should you ask that question? Should you know what that is? Should you try to maximize those things? Of course you should. But the thing that you should keep in mind is that your max earning power is going to be 2 decades from now. Your focus is on maximizing your career earnings, not your earnings in year one. You should be thinking about, how am I going to maximize my earnings in years 15 and 20 and 25 and 30. If your focus is on that, you're going to be thinking about different things for that first job. And honestly, even in your second and third job, you're going to be thinking, or you should be thinking, I really want to develop myself right out of the gate. I want to get a head start. I want to get ahead of somebody else. By doing that, I'm going to put myself in a position to really track myself to much higher earnings 2 decades from now. Where if you were to pick a job because it pays you, say, $10,000 more out of the gate in year one, and that's why you pick it, maybe you do well, in the first 5 years, maybe you make more than that other person who took $10,000 less. But if you're not being developed while that other person is, your progression is going to be stunted. And you really need to be thinking about kind of those first 5 years in the same way you think about investing for retirement or investing into the future, is that there's a certain amount of compounding. You earn a little bit more on an investment in year one, and that gives you more in year two, and that gives you more in year three, and it just kind of gets bigger and bigger, and your return is kind of exponentially increasing more and more. You should be thinking that same way about your learning. It's the same compounding benefit. You're going to be learning so much more, and that by year 5, you've got so much more knowledge about the industry that you're in, so much more kind of skill sets that you can apply into new roles and get much further ahead than that person who maybe made $10,000 more than you in year one, but they're not being developed. There are many issues that should guide your decisions about your first post-college job, but these, they ain't them. So you ask, all right, so if I should be focusing on how do I learn, what questions should I be asking, Scott? There's a lot of things that companies will do in that regard. And I'll just kind of touch on just a few of them to think about. But there are many ways that companies can develop you as a first-time kind of professional. Certainly one just broad way is just providing networking opportunities within the company, and not in or organization, but not necessarily just in your specific field. Companies will formalize that in even a more kind of, I want to say, a more aggressive way through rotational programs. And a lot of organizations, a lot of companies will do these as well. And that is where you will be purposely moved around different departments of that company or that organization and work in that area for some period of time. It could be just for a few weeks. It could be for a couple months or more. And then you move to a different one. And over the period of, maybe it's 6 months, a year, that you are exposed to a lot of different areas of the business. Related to that is then cross-functional projects. That's somewhat similar to kind of this rotational program where you move your desk and you move to different parts of the business. Cross-functional projects are that you are in your home department, whatever you were hired for and what your kind of main job is, but you take part in projects that really pull from that, because of the necessity of that particular project, are going to pull people from different parts of the organization, different parts of the business. And that's also a great way for you to learn about what's happening, because you can see kind of like how these other people are thinking, what they're saying, the questions they're asking, the information that they're sharing with the group. You get exposed to those groups in that process as well. So when you do sit down and try to find and decide on that first job, look at it through this lens of, are you going to continue developing me? And if you think of it that way, that all this is, this seemingly chasm between where you've been and where you're going, and you see it as really just a continuation of moving away from me paying to learn to you paying me to learn, that you can continue that development and really focus that first year or two as I want to continue to develop and set a trajectory for my career that will be much more beneficial in the years to come.